So for this assignment, area under a curve assignment, the first part of this question was using your previous knowledge of polynomials and checking how to solve a cubic equation. So part one, you're looking to show that x plus 1 is a factor. So if you're checking for x plus 1 to be a factor, that means that you're basically going to be checking to see if x equals minus 1 is a root. Right? That's the kind of process, and in order to do that, that means using your nested calculation with minus 1. So your coefficients, your 2, your minus 9, your 3 and your 14. So in the first instance, putting the 2 straight down, then multiplying by the minus 1, it's going to give you minus 2. Adding minus 9 minus 2 gives you minus 11. Multiplying again by the minus 1 gives you positive 11. Add those, you get 14. Times again by minus 1 gives you negative 14. And we end up with a 0 at the end, which is what we were hoping for. You can either write here equals remainder, or you can say that's the function value at minus 1. But you then do need to make a statement that says since f of minus 1 equals 0, x plus 1 is a factor. So it is very important that you write that. That's one of the marks when you do this. So there is a mark for the nested calculation, but then the second mark is for your statement. So that either has to be since f of minus 1 equals 0, or you could write since remainder equals 0, x plus 1 is a factor. Now the other purpose behind the nested calculation is that these values here generate the quadratic factor. So the other factor that you're looking for is going to be 2x squared minus 11x plus 14. And we make use of that in part 2, because in part 2 you're asked to solve the cubic expression equal to 0. So that's basically looking for the roots, and this is where you make use of your factorised form to do this. So we know that we can rewrite this cubic expression as x plus 1 times 2x squared minus your 11x plus 14 equal to 0, and then you'd be having to factorise your 2x squared, and remember that a 2x squared means you're going to have a 2x and an x. You then need to be looking for two numbers that multiply together to give you positive 14, but your middle term is negative, so you're mainly either working with minus 14 times minus 1 or minus 2 times minus 7, and then you need to check which bracket they would fit into to give you the correct middle term. You can do a little diagram like this where you've got 2x and x, and if you're checking your minus 7 and minus 2, you opposite brackets multiplying, that would give you minus 7x minus 4x, which that version works. So that's one bracket, 2x minus 7, and the other bracket is x minus 2, and that's all equal to 0. And then of course once you've got your three brackets equal to 0, you can split up into three little mini equations and produce the roots or the solutions that you're looking for. So that would give you your x equals minus 1. This one will give you 7 over 2, or you can write it as 3.5. And the last one, x minus 2, would produce x equals 2. So that's all you're asked to look for in the first bit. You're just asked to solve the equation, and that's it. Moving on to part B, you can see that the equation that you've just been working with is appearing here again, this time with a graph. And it's saying to you the graph cuts the axes at A, B and C, so clearly these are roots. And these points here you have just worked out, so you know that that will be minus 1. There were two positive values, 2 and 3.5, so clearly this one here's the 2 and this will be 3.5. So what are we asked for? We're asked to write down the coordinates of the point A and B. So your A coordinate is clearly -1, 0, and your B coordinate is 2, 0. So that's interpreting your information from part A, and you would only earn 1 mark for doing that. Now, second bit is hence calculate the shaded area, and this is where you're expected to know the link between area and integration. So we're expecting you to know that if we integrate between -1 and 2 and integrate the equation of the function, which is our 2x cubed minus 9x squared plus 3x plus 14, and integrate with respect to x. So integrating all that function, that's going to give us 2x to the power 4 over 4 minus 9x to the power 3 over 3, 3x squared over 2, and 14x. And then putting your limits on that. Now you could sub in at this point, but I would recommend that you simplify these expressions before you sub in. So 2 over 4, that would become 2. 9 over 3, that would become 3 on the bottom, on the top. So we've got 3x minus 3x cubed, and this one here, you'd have to leave that one as 3 over 2 x squared, and then 14x. So only the first one, the 2 over 4 simplifies to half, your 9 over 3 simplifies to 3. Now you're going to sub in your values. So your upper one, you're going to have 2 to the power 4 over 2 minus 3 times 2 cubed plus, you're going to have 3 times 2 squared over 2 plus 14 times 2. So that's the upper one subbed in, and then you're going to sub in your lower limit, and when you do that you are subtracting. So take away, now I'm going to use brackets here, and I'm also going to use brackets around my negative number, so -1 to the power 4, and that is over 2 minus 3 times -1 cubed plus 3 times -1 squared over 2, and then plus 14 times -1, and that's all in brackets. Now from here on in you only get 1 mark for your final answer, but working out each little individual bit and then maybe using the calculator at the end is probably the best way forward. So with this, 2 to the power 4 is 16 divided by 2, that would give us 8. You've got 2 cubed would be 8 minus that 3. 3 times 8 would be 24. 2 squared is 4. 3 times the 4 on the top is 12. Divided by 2 would be 6. And then you've got 14 times 2 would be 28. Minus, keeping it inside the bracket just now, -1 to the power 4 is +1, so that would leave us with a half. -1 cubed is -1, so -3 times -1 means that that becomes +3. -1 squared is +1 times the 3, so that's going to be 3 over 2. And 14 times -1 is -14. Now you could choose to use the calculator at this point, or you could work your way through. You could multiply out your brackets. You could leave it all like this as one big sum, minus a half, minus 3, minus 1.5, plus 14. You could try and tidy that up as best you can, but your final answer should be 27 units squared because it's area, or you can write that at the end, the area or the shaded area equals 27 square units, and that's it. So check your own work and look at where you would get marks in a question like that. This is worth 4 marks, so you do get your mark for writing down this expression here. You get a mark for having integrated correctly. Your 3rd mark is for the substitution line, and the 4th mark is for the final answer. So being in a calculator paper, making sure you use the calculator correctly and you're careful with all your negatives, etc., then that last mark is really something that you can do on the calculator. So give yourself feedback, look for places where you might have improved if you didn't get it fully correct.